Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today we're going to be jumping into a top 10 wish list for season 11. Now, my top 10 wish list, I'm going to be starting this list from number 10 and working down to number 1, and this list is more or less in order, like from, you know, the thing I want the least but still want, all the way up to the number 1 change that I want to see coming in season 11 for Fortnite. Now, the middle of this list is like pretty interchangeable because I mean it's the middle of the list, but let's go ahead and jump into it. I think this will be pretty fun thing to kind of explore, and more specifically I would love for you guys to give me, you know, what you want most out of the next season in the comment section down below. But before we jump in, leave me a like, subscribe to the channel. If you would help me out, that's great. Let's go ahead and jump into it. So number 10, this one is interesting. It's better creative LTM'S, like ranked zone wars, combine like modes. That's what I have in my notes. I just think that there is a lot for them to explore with creative, and I had a conversation recently with a friend of mine, Yoipi, and we were kind of talking about, you know, like the World Cup and how they did the creative World Cup, and I would like to see them kind of expand on that a little bit. Like give some cool game modes, like create like an official TDM, or have someone create like an official TDM with no building, you know, some deathmatch modes, ranked zone wars, or just better zone wars, because a couple of those maps aren't very good. And overall stuff like the combine, you know, like speed run maps, have like a group of people or like a team of people that make speed run maps and stuff like that. I think there's something to be explored there that would, you know, doesn't really affect the overall game much, but it would give us something to do kind of like on the side, or it would help foster a community of players that just aren't that interested in BR. Like there are probably speedrunners out there that like Fortnite but don't really play like super competitive or like super serious, and would, you know, really enjoy something like that. So number 9, change/removal of Storm Surge. Now this one's pretty low on my list. Actually probably could have been number 10, because I don't think Storm Surge is like the worst thing in the world, but it's really not very great. It, you know, it's bugged. You know, it doesn't work all the time. It's just kind of like a silly mechanic to get people killed in really stacked games, and although it doesn't really pop up all the time because you have to be in really serious lobbies for it to happen, when you do get affected by Storm Surge, when it finally does, like if you haven't yet, when you finally have Storm Surge kind of dictating your decisions, it just doesn't feel that fun. It really, I think at its core, it's an anti-fun mechanic, and I would love to see it either be entirely changed, like, you know, reworked in some way, or just removed entirely. Number 8, a good map/map mobility. Now I kind of cheated and put 2 on this one because everybody's talking about the potential for a new map. So with a new map, I just want like really good zones. I don't want, you know, rift zones. I don't want like gimmicky places. And overall, I think the map just needs really good mobility. I still feel like season 10 right now, the map mobility is just kind of low. I mean, with the removal of quads, everybody's either using drift boards or just using like a couple of mobility items that you have with the one rift that is like the most reliable rift at Loot Lake. So there's some decent mobility, but I think I'm just kind of putting this as a blanket statement. If there is a new map, if they keep this current map, whatever they do, whatever changes come, I just want some good mobility and some good zones. Number 7, building and editing sensitivity for PC. Now this one's a really good one, man, because like I'm gonna tell you guys straight up, I play 400 DPI 0.135, and that's like, it's an okay middle ground sense. Like I'm not happy with it for either thing that I'm doing. If I turn it down, I would love to turn my sense down so I could aim better, because truly I think that I would aim a little bit better with a slightly lower sensitivity. But if I turn it down, then I'm just too slow at building, and I'm already kind of slow at building. So if I had a building and editing sensitivity, I could crank my building and editing sensitivity up a little bit, maybe up to like 0.16 or something around there for me, and then I could actually turn my regular like running around sensitivity, aiming sensitivity down, and that would be a huge improvement. And in console, or not even console, just controller actually has this, and I really don't see a reason for PC not to have it as well, or mouse and keyboard not to have it. So number 6, FOV slider. This one's pretty basic. I think it's simple. I mean, a higher FOV or a lower FOV is just better for some people, and ultimately when it comes down to customization for the player, for them to decide how they want to play the game, I think it's just better to leave it up to the player. I don't really know why they want to fight us on this one. Honestly, if they added an FOV that went all the way up to like 120 or something, I probably wouldn't even go all the way up. On most games that I play that have an FOV slider, I usually don't even crank it all the way up, because then I feel like I'm too zoomed out. And on a game like Fortnite, you want to be able to see, you know, pretty decent range, and if you have your FOV kind of yoinked, you're not going to be able to see very far, or it just kind of distorts it and makes it not easy to see very far. But you know, you want to be able to see up and down, which is great. So number 5, looting system redesign. Now this one I have like pretty much in the middle of the pack, you know, number 5, because I don't really think it's something they ever have to do, but it would be a gigantic quality of life change for the game. Now what I mean by like a looting system redesign is basically there should just be 100% loot. We shouldn't, you know, you shouldn't have to guess or pray that a chest is where it is. You shouldn't have to, you know, land at a place that you've landed 1,000 times and hope that the gun spawn, you know, actually has a gun instead of like a double stack of ammo, or it just isn't there at all. There should just be 100% loot. Now this would take some tweaking, because with the possibilities for loot in the game now, like let's pretend you jumped into a match and for whatever reason the RNG landed on the whole map has loot and every single spot, every single chest is there. That'd be probably way too much loot. So they would have to adjust the available loot if they did make the loot 100%. But wouldn't it just be better to know you could land somewhere and get something? And then it would just be a skill thing for you to learn locations and know where all the loot is. I don't think that would be a bad thing at all. I think just overall looting is being random. Now the items would still be random, so it's not like we're totally eliminating RNG, but why not eliminate like a little bit of RNG? I don't really see a problem with that. Number 4, casual and competitive loot pools / balance. Now this one is pretty simple. I think if they want to come out with cool, crazy, zany, like whatever kind of items, mobility, crazy stuff, they should simply just put it into pub games first and leave it out of competitive, so we can have our own like kind of isolated loot pool for competitive. And then as the opinions kind of come out and as people have tried it, then they can say, hey, you know what, I actually think that'd be good for competitive, and they can get an overall consensus and then put it in. So ultimately it's not just that the games would be totally different, it's just that they would have like this initial feel of like a separate loot pool, like separate balance potentially, and then as things are kind of like tested or felt out, then they can add those items in or not. Like, you know, just like the junk riff, like it's just not in competitive at all. That would, you know, that's great, it's a fun item, whatever. Number 3, better competitive format, reward placement higher. Now this one is specifically good to talk about because the kind of like World Cup, like Cash Cup formats where they have the placement thresholds and like 1 point for elimination, it's not a bad format. It's definitely the best we've had like in-game playing, but it's not that great because getting close to a threshold and being rewarded nothing or less than someone that's like 1 place ahead of you is just kind of dumb. If you guys remember, or like if you want to look up the ESL Katowice like event, like the LAN event format, that format was a format that rewarded every single thing you did, more or less. Like if you got any kind of placement, you would get points, and if you got kills, you would get points. And I just want to see a format like that implemented. It could be really high inflated numbers, like hundreds of points for kills and placement, or it could be scaled down and you know, there could be like 100 total placement points with, you know, X amount of points for kills, something like that. I've talked about this before in the past, but I just would love to see players of every single spot, you know what I mean? Like everybody should just be being rewarded for what you get. If you get 16th place and one person lived 1 place higher than you, you know, you just miss out on a bunch of points. And same for like 26th and 25th, and it's just kind of silly. Number 2, Siphon and pubs. This one's huge. Especially with the addition of skill-based matchmaking. I don't really see a reason not to have Siphon and pubs. And ultimately, I think Siphon was just an evolution of the game. It became to a point where since everyone was getting good, like literally everybody in the game that plays, you know, at least in like normal games that, you know, most likely whoever's listening to this has experienced, most of those people are going to be around your skill level, which means, you know, for whatever your skill level is, you're going to have a pretty decent fight against them. Now, because that's the case, you can't just walk away with free kills and keep your health as high as you used to be able to. It's like an evolution of the game. As the players increased in skill, the fights got harder, people started taking a little bit more damage. That's an easy way of thinking about it. So ultimately, Siphon was just a really good quality of life change. And if they needed to rebalance it for pubs, that could be fine. Like maybe instead of just getting a 350 health, the player spawns, like when you kill someone, just have them spawn a 50 pot. So then the chance of you getting killed after a fight is still there, but you also still would get like that 50 health or something. And that's not even a great solution because then it wouldn't apply to your HP bar, but I'm just saying that they could find a way to have some form of Siphon enabled, and I think it would be really, really good, a great quality of life change. It would definitely breathe some life into like the pub mode. And number one, you guys should probably know this if you've watched my channel before, arena changes. I want to see them add leaderboards. I want to see them add seasons. I want to see them have, you know, incentives for people placing really high at the end of every season. And I just want it to be this complete culture shift for Fortnite competitive. I want to see everybody that plays the game grinding arena day to day. And you know, if scrims stay around, that's great, because I think private scrims would be a wonderful thing to have. Like, having closed discords for really high rated players just makes sense to me. But all these open discords, I think the goal of the open discords, which is just to get good practice, could easily be done in game. And I'm not saying that those discords aren't great, they are, especially the addition of T1 scrims, which now I've had some time to kind of test out myself, and I think that the game quality is pretty good. It definitely feels like a champion cash cup, so there's some pretty good end games and some pretty good fights that are going on there. But I think overall that could be achieved by Epic in game and would look really nice and would be a great quality of life change for arena. Now, that said, the queue times, they can't be long. It's just, they have to be like a max of like 7 minutes. Players aren't going to sit around forever waiting to play the game. That's just not what we want to do. Honestly, even if it was like maybe even 7 minutes, people might just want to go scrim, because I don't know, it's just not that great to sit around all day, especially if you're someone that wants to stream. So that's my wish list, my top 10 wish list from 10 to 1. Let me know, like I said, in the comment section down below, what do you guys think of my list? What would you swap around, or what would you add into the list if you could add something? I appreciate you for checking out this video. Please do not leave without leaving a like. I appreciate it again, and I'll see you on the next video.